Ooh. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so your heart's broken. You sit around moping, crying, crying. You say you even thinking about dying? Oh, well, before you do anything rash, dig this. Everybody plays a fool sometimes. There's no exception to the rule. It may be factual, it may be cruel. I ain't lying. Everybody plays a fool. Falling in love is such an easy thing to do. And there's no guarantee that the one you love is gonna love you. Oh, loving eyes they cannot see. A certain person could never be. Love runs deeper than any ocean and cloud your mind with emotion. Everybody plays a fool sometime. Woo-hoo-hoo. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, family. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the mental house. Whatever side of the diaspora that you may be on, I want to welcome you. And before we get started here, how about if you hit the little bell button, and that way when I do a video, you can be notified, and that would I would like that very much. Okay, listen, you guys, that song is so true. I mean, it is so freaking true. Who would disagree with me? Who? Especially that line they go, and now you cry, and when you do, the next time around someone cries for you. Ain't that the truth? It just goes on and on and on, like a cycle and like a circle. But what I have found out, and I'm sure a lot of y'all would agree with me out there when I say, um, sometimes us being in love to the point where it's almost death, um, when it doesn't go the way we anticipated, it's almost like we realize that we lost ourselves at some point, and that we want to get back to the way we used to be before we met that person, or before we went through that emotional spell that just feels that close to death. And the reason why I'm choosing this topic today is because, and I hope y'all give me some feedback on this, is because there was three interesting, well, really two that's in the forefront right now. That's very disturbing, and I guess it's about divorce. It's about people losing themselves. It's about being in dysfunctional relationships, and then again, it's about allowing people to treat you the way that they do. And the first one I want to start with is Mary J. Blige. For those of y'all who don't know, I've been living under a rock. Y'all don't know my sister. What's the 411? And you remind me. No, that's Patrice Rusher. um, the way you walk in. Okay, that's Mary. Or I'm sure y'all know. The list goes on and on and on. I wasn't really a big Mary J. Fan. Um, I just always thought that she was a little flat. But what I really liked about her, and don't y'all come at me, was her ability to be honest in her music, and for that I would always um, maybe have a little um, jealous, or maybe a little, I shouldn't say use the word jealous, maybe a little envy, um, because I knew that it was hard to be as authentic and as honest as Mary comes across on records. And I always honored her for that. So I shouldn't use the word envy because that's really a strong word and has a negative connotation. But that's what I really liked about her. I loved her authenticity. So, as a lot of us know, Mary is going through a real, real bad, bitter divorce. And she's been making the rounds because she's got a new album out called The Strength of a Woman, which, ironically, she started making um, in a different. She was in a different space that she's in now, because the space she was in at that point, she was saying she would do anything, and she was in the space where she was trying to make the relationship work. And a lot of people like Mary because, again, she's so authentic, she's so real, she's so hood, basically. She reminds us she's a round the way girl, somebody you know, somebody, a relative. And the first thing that comes out, like, again, that sticks in your mind is um, Mary's had the issues of a bad breakup before. Mary grew up in the projects. Mary grew up without a father, or watching her father abuse her mother. Um, So she's the perfect, example of a child witnessing abuse, um, crossing any barrier, and to have low self-esteem, and to, no matter how much talent you have, because this stuff crosses again over all of those dynamics. Her and what's going on with Mel B. But I want to stick to Mary right now because um, I think she was so authentic in talking to, I think it was Flex over at Power 105, I'm not Hot 97, but what she was saying was how she gave her power away. She's actually admitted this person, she knew this person didn't matter, didn't want her. He began to chop down and chip at her personality and chip at her. And at first, he was such a beautiful person, a person that she adored. In my opinion, and these are all allegedly what she says that happened to her. And just being able to connect with her on that level, I saw him as being a narcissist or having real strong narcissist tendencies. And because of um, her upbringing, made her more empathetic and allowed her to lose herself in another relationship and honor that person more than she was honoring herself. You might say, how'd you get all that? I mean, pretty much she said it. she really said it. What stuck out to me more than anything is when she started talking about growing up in abusive situations. And in her case, she's used the breeding ground or the grid as the project. She said, you know how it is in a project when you grow up in a project, and then you got to be mad. I mean, in other words, if you're happy, people will be upset with you. And that's just like if you live in the hood. If you grew up in the hood, and you go to, you know, schools, and I don't know, I'm just comparing it with my experience. It's like whenever you go to school with a lot of black kids, you got to fight all the time. It's like, damn, why we got to fight all the goddamn time? So, which may grow you up, like in my case, and it didn't help that I had so many brothers, but it grows you up to have a real chip on your shoulder and you walk around life angry, because that's the way it is. Everybody is angry. What you angry for? I don't know, just angry, looking for a beat. And when she said that, that really penetrated my heart. It really pierced me because how many kids have I seen? How many kids have I worked with? How many kids have I um, tried to mentor that have told me, you know, I don't want to go so and so place today because really I don't want to fight. That is the most craziest situation and the most craziest expectations that we can have. Excuse me. As a community, and especially break that down and put it in your family. But you can't run away from your family because remember, being in a family is like being held hostage because ain't nothing you can do. You're subjected to all this shit. So if your mom and them drink on Fridays or get drunk or 7 days a week and everybody's in there smoking or doing whatever, cigarettes, whatever, blowing in the kids' face, there's really nothing these kids can do about it. They have to just sit there and be subjected to all this craziness. And their slates, and it's like a chalkboard. Their chalkboards are don't got no writing on it. Now you getting ready to write all on this kid's chalkboard, which is his body, his spirit, his mind, with your behavior, with your mental illness, with your disappointments, with your depression, with your and we don't think about the role. See, so now these little sponges are watching this. And so when Mary said that, all I could think about is she went on to say how her second record was a smash and she was still hanging out with the girls in the project. She would hear a record on the radio and she would downplay it, and because she didn't want to seem different. And I remember experiencing that exact same thing. I think at 13 I had That's Love was on the charts at that time, with a group. It was Khadijah, Sugar Hill featuring Khadijah, and it was a nice regional hit for the time and for the backing that it had. But because it made me stand out, and it made I at that time in my life and the people I was surrounding myself with, I felt that as a way of me not to fit in. You understand what I'm saying? And so when she said that, it pierced my heart for her. The only thing is, she was saved. And because, growing up where she did, and fortunately for her, she met Puffy and people that continue to do. But how many little black girls are in the hood right now that are doing things that they really don't want to do, and they really are proud, and they really want to go this way? They don't really have a strong foundation. Because remember, my parents pretty much abandoned me because I wasn't doing gospel music anymore. They were like, you are going to hell, because they were pretty much embarrassed. Not my, just that's how it kind of went. But to make a long story short, when she said that, it let me know that you can take the person out the ghetto, but you can't take the ghetto out the person. So having that as her self-esteem backdrop, because she's a bad chick, and everybody knows that she is. She's powerful, and like she said, she has an enormous amount of internal strength, as most women do, as I do, except we don't present it all the time. And so just the fact that she backed down from her greatness, or how many times have you been in a relationship and you dummied yourself down from the relationship because you didn't want to appear to be smarter than, or knowing too much, or whatever the situation was. She admitted to all those shortcomings that she did just to make this person feel adequate about their self, which was not her responsibility. But because of her codependency, that's what she did. Because most people, I'm sure, when they saw her husband, they were like, wow, he got a good catch, because it wasn't like, he was, a person that you heard of, or you even knew of any clients that he was managing. I think Mary J. Blige was his only client. And what happened was, over time, he saw that she would give her power away, And from her own admission, she said because she was insecure, she lost herself, uh, and he was a master manipulator. He began chipping away at her soul, chipping away. And so after 16 years, I know exactly. I think that was, I was in a relationship for 17 years. So around neck and neck. And I really was seeing just how much we really had in common. And the reasons that you stay. The reason this person is sabotaging your confidence. And the worst thing for a singer to have is not to have your confidence. And so when you enmesh with a person whose agenda it is to destroy your confidence, but you don't know it, you're just losing yourself, but really you're chipping and chipping, letting them chip away and chip away at the greatness that you have, that you possess. Really, that they wish that they probably had, but they don't. But they'll see you willing to give all yours away to them, and they don't deserve it. And she got caught in one of those kind of situations. And I was like, wow. It was so much of that situation that I could just see myself, years ago, a few years ago, that I'm in, like I said, in every day as I look at a beautiful new day, I know that this is a recovery walk. This is before, I'm a lot more healed than I was, say, 5 years ago, or a healed than I was 3 years ago. But the bottom line is, this was a real painful experience for me. The pain that I was avoiding is the pain that I had to end up facing anyway. Because all the reasons I stayed in that abusive relationship, and it was abusive on both parts. Okay, so um, I'm not trying to sit here and act like I was an all angel or anything in this situation. The point I'm trying to make is I ended up in so much pain anyway. So all the reasons I held on to the relationship, just like Mary said, I didn't want to be alone. I'm getting older. I mean, I've been with this person. They know me. I know them. Um, Damn, 17 years is a long time to invest in a person. Then have to, break up. Who wants to fucking do that and then get out here and go to dating again at my age? And so for all those reasons that that was a fear in me, was ultimately all of the reasons that at the end of the situation, it was either me or them. It was either I was gonna die or they were gonna die. That's how emotionally um, broken down I was. And when you allow somebody to take your power away from you, you know when you're doing it. You don't need nobody to tell you, because on the outside, people looking in, they don't know what's going on. They don't know. They just know you pretending. I mean, they just know you're happy, or whatever picture you want to paint for them. And in her case, and just like my case, and I'm sure many other cases, y'all, we paint the picture that everything is okay, and the shit be ratchet. We paint the picture, oh yeah, that's good. And you go home, you be like, damn, why did that happen? Why did we argue and fight about that? That is just, Mary spoke of at the end of her relationship. She started talking, seeing how this person, instead of coming to her and saying, listen, I don't want to do this anymore or whatever, he began to he continued to chip away at her. Why don't you cook? Or why don't you now? This person has never been that kind of person since you met him. They're a person that you travel the world with, and you hire nannies and cooks, and all of a sudden it's like, why don't you cook? I mean, so and now that you're in a divorce process, you can really see how much the person really cared about you, because now they want to sue you for $100,000 a month. I mean, that has got to be some painful shit. Okay, but I'm glad that she says that she's happy that she has herself back. I'm glad she's in that zone, because like I said, in the 40s, you do hold on to stuff because you don't want to let go, and you don't want to be alone. But I'm glad that she decided to take that step, because that was gonna kill you anyway. That was gonna kill you. and with no peace of mind. You know, at least I can say now I've had peace of mind for the last few years, and it feels good. It feels good. Um, and I'm not all the way there yet. I'm not all the way there, but guess what? My todays are certainly better than my yesterdays, and I keep reminding myself of that, and I keep trying to find um, ways of purging and learning more things about myself, which you can never do when you're in a relationship and that person is just taking all as your soul. Um, so that you know, it's really interesting how again this abuse and what you set yourself up for. The grid is low. Look what you set yourself up for. If you witness all this, it's gonna be easy for you to attract a partner that does the same thing. We keep discussing this. And lastly, the Mel B situation, the Spice Girl, the um, she is divorcing her husband. I think his name is Stephen Belafonte, and the allegations against him and what is going on in their marriage is just so pathetic. Um, because the judge granted her the restraining order and full custody of the daughter that they have, because she's claiming that she has suffered years of emotional and physical abuse to this individual. He threatened to leak sex tapes that actually um, they made. He made her make. I mean, let me just share this with you. You go from there. The divorce drama between Mel B and Stephen Belafonte just went into overdrive. Mel B is claiming that her estranged husband is a monster who beat her and made her a slave. Here's what she is alleging from the divorce documents, courtesy of TMZ. In November of 2007, the night of her Dancing with the Stars finale, she was getting ready at home. She said Stephen placed both of his hands around her neck, began choking her, and slammed her down into the hardwood floors. She says this was the pattern when she achieved any measure of success. He would beat me down to let me know that he was in charge. Very insecure man. While she was taping the X Factor, she was going to tape a segment with Usher, and Belafonte flew into a jealous rage and punched her with a closed fist in the face, splitting her lip. When she asked how she was supposed to work with the injury, he said, "You should have thought of that before deciding to flirt with and fuck Usher." To decide to flirt with and fuck Usher. August 2012, the day after performing at the closing ceremonies for the London Olympics, he punched her with a closed fist and pushed her down on the carpet. Her skin was burned from being pushed against the carpet, and her face actually scabbed over the rug burns. He then forced her to tweet out she injured herself by running on 7-inch Louis Vuitton heels. Mel B claims Stephen got their nanny pregnant. Says he told her he wanted to have the baby, and all three of us lived together. She says Stephen ultimately demanded the nanny get an abortion, and she also says that Stephen paid the nanny in excess of $300,000 of Mel B's money for the alleged nanny services. She also says that in 2014 she was overcome with emotional and physical exhaustion and took an entire bottle of aspirin because she felt no way out of this abuse, y'all. I'm just telling you. She tried calling 999, and he blocked her, throwing her in the bedroom, locking the door, and telling her to die, bitch. She says Stephen had sex tapes of her and repeatedly threatened to release them to ruin her career. She says he forced her to participate in sexual intercourse with him and random women, and he would often secretly record the encounters. She says that when she tried to resist the 3 ways, he threatened to release the sex tapes. Mel B says she tried to leave him many, many times, but he threatened me with violence and threatened to destroy my life in every possible way. Destroy my career and take my kids from me. Mel B says Stephen has a gun at home, a violation of a law since he's prohibited from carrying any firearms as part of a domestic violence conviction involving another woman. She says the gun is either a 38 or a 357 Magnum. Now, a lot of people said what I heard. Why did she get away from him? If he was doing all of that, why did she leave? Why did she leave? You know, and yada yada yada, as if the woman is making up stuff. So, but I noticed that the consensus is different when you talk about Meredith Vieira. She talks about the relationship she was in, and now you're talking about a middle class, intelligent, so-called, um, uh, white woman who is on top of her game, who's educated, who's in the public eye as well, who does the news, who's very educated and very learned, but yet she was involved with a person that she allowed to little things. She said it started off with him grabbing her arms, grabbing her forehead, and then talking to her like this up in her face. And it went from that to a full blown, him throwing her into a shower of hot scalding water, threw her naked, allegedly, into a hallway. She was in the hallway naked, so she ran down into a stairwell. Do y'all hear this? And somebody will say, and the only reason she left that relationship, she said that's not what made her leave. What made her leave was the fact that she got a different anchoring job in another town, and that she could leave him and get away that way. See, if you don't do the work, if you don't spend time to love yourself, before you call yourself loving anybody else, you got to nurture that little boy, that little girl, because this abuse is not just limited to women, and I certainly don't want to give that impression, because I know women who abuse men, and I know most of the situations where a man, a lot of, I won't say most, a lot of situations where these men snap and end up in jail is because they might have taken one too many ashtrays thrown at them, or one too many scratches, or they just don't report it. My point is, those little boys have had the grid set by mommy and daddy, watching how they interact, being exposed to feeling invisible. Okay, and then when they become adults, trust me, somebody is going to pay, because they're going to be on the empathetic side of the game, or they're going to be on the narcissistic side of the game. Either way it go, you producing it right there in your own home. Some of y'all don't even know it. Like Rocco said, you don't even know. You don't even know. That's what you're doing. All right. Remember that, y'all. I mean, it's real important that we understand and make every interaction with a young person, a baby, a young, because it's much more easier to love a small child than to fix a grown up. And that's by Frederick Douglass. Just remember that. So give the kids love and give them explanation. And if you have to give them discipline, give it to them in love. The objection of discipline is to teach. To teach. Not to humiliate and make me feel like, damn, if I was just big enough, I'd kick your ass. No. And that's what a lot of us are doing. All right? So, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I can't change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time. All right. Like what you hear, please like and subscribe. And I'm going to see you a little later right here in the mental house. All right? Bye, family.